In today's video, I'm going to be explaining everything you need to know about tritone substitutions. Enjoy. How's it going? I'm Dave, and my channel is all about helping you create awesome neo-soul, R&B, and modern sounds on your guitar. If you're new here, and that sounds like your kind of thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and you click the notification bell so that you're notified every single time I release a new video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about tritone substitutions. They're a very popular technique for creating nice, spicy, and jazzy sounding chord progressions, so this is really going to be useful. I'm going to be explaining how the technique works. Then we're going to be applying it to a chord progression, and I'm going to show you how you can solo over a tritone substitution as well. This video is going to be jam-packed with information. Make sure you grab a pen and paper to take notes as well. We use tritone substitutions when we want to play a dominant 7th chord. So let's play in the key of C today. And in any particular key, a dominant 7th chord is going to appear naturally as chord 5. So chord 5 in the key of C is G7. Now the whole purpose of the dominant 7th chord is to create tension at the end of the chord progression before we resolve back on the C. Listen to how the G7 resolves back to C. Now, to understand how tritone substitutions work, we have to understand why this G7 resolves back to C so well. So let's analyze the notes in the chord G7. We've got the notes G, B, D, and F. Now, the most important notes in a dominant 7th chord are the major 3rd and the flat 7th, as they tell us that the chord is a dominant 7th chord. The 5th doesn't really tell us that it's a dominant 7th chord. It's the 3rd and the flat 7th. Now, the 3rd and the flat 7th in our dominant 7th chord are B and F. These notes in relation to our key are called active notes, and active notes like to resolve to stable notes, which are more resolved sort of notes. Active notes create a bit of tension. So for example, the B in our G7 chord wants to resolve upper semitone to C, which is in our C major chord. And the F in our G7 chord wants to resolve down a semitone to E, which is also in our C major chord. That's why the G7 creates so much tension. But there's one other reason as well why the G7 creates so much tension, and that is because that B and that F are a tritone apart. And a tritone is one of the most dissonant intervals. Just take a listen to it. Sounds pretty disgusting on its own. So this is where the tritone part of the tritone substitution comes into play. What we need to know about tritones is that no matter which order you put them in, they're still going to be a tritone apart. So if we put F after B, that's a tritone. And if we put B after F, that's also a tritone. Okay, so I've got B to F, that's a tritone, and I've got F to B, that's a tritone. Okay, so we can reverse them and they're still the same interval, and that's the only interval that will do that. Now, this is really important because if B is the 3rd and F is the flat 7th of a G7 chord, if we swap them round, F is going to be the 3rd and B is going to be the flat 7th of a new dominant 7 chord. So F is the 3rd and B is the flat 7th of a D flat 7 chord. And now, for the reasons that we stated before, the F and B being active notes wanting to resolve to stable notes, and also because of the F and B being a tritone apart, creating that dissonant interval, this D flat 7 is going to resolve really nicely onto C. Okay, so this is our tritone substitution. When we're playing G7, we could also, instead of G7, substitute it for a D flat 7. Now, another thing to note is this D flat 7 is actually a tritone above G7. So all you have to do to create a tritone substitution is substitute a dominant 7th chord that you're going to play anyway for another dominant 7th chord that's a tritone above that. So if we were to, for example, play F sharp 7, F sharp dominant 7, what's a tritone above F sharp? That's C. So we could play a C7 instead. Okay? It's as simple as that. So let's actually apply this to a chord progression. Let's do a 2-5-1 in the key of C. So in the key of C, a 2-5-1 would be D minor 7, G7, and then C major 7. Now our 5 chord is G7. As we said, we could replace it or substitute it for a D flat 7. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to play D minor 7, D flat 7, and then G major 7 or C major 7. Okay, let's hear it one more time. Now that sounds really cool. It adds a bit more spice to our chord progression, a bit more flavor, a bit more interest, but we can spice this up even further and we could play an altered dominant chord for our tritone substitution. Now, what I really like to do on the tritone substitution is play a dominant 7 sharp 11 chord. That's what we're going to do. In this chord progression, the 2-5-1 with the tritone substitution, we're going to play a D flat 7 sharp 11 chord, and it looks like this. Okay? On its own doesn't sound too fantastic, but in the context of the chord progression, it will sound really good. So we're playing 9 on the low E string, 9 on the D string, 10 on the G string, and 8 on the B string. So let's listen to that in action. We're playing D minor 7, D flat 7 sharp 11, then C major 7. Awesome. Let's talk about how to solo over a tritone substitution. The best scale that I found to use for a tritone substitution is the Lydian dominant scale. The Lydian dominant scale consists of a root, 2nd, 3rd, sharp 4th, 5th, 6th, and flat 7th. So as you can see, it's got all the notes of a dominant 7th chord, the root, 3rd, 5th, and flat 7th. And if you are playing a dominant 7 sharp 11, which sharp 11 being the same as a sharp 4th, it's got that in there as well. So it works perfectly over your dominant 7 sharp 11 chord as well. Let's take a look at how to play the Lydian dominant scale. We're going to use a D flat Lydian dominant scale just to fit in the key that we're playing in. So D flat Lydian dominant looks like this. 9, 11 on the low E string. 8, 10, 11 on the A string. 8, 9, 11 on the D string. 8, 10 on the G string. 8, 9, 11, 12 on the B string. Now I like to play index, middle, little, and then slide the little finger up. And then 9, 11 on the high E string. So altogether it sounds like this. So I've put a little lick together, very, very simple, but I'm playing the C major scale over the chords that are diatonic to C major. So those being the D minor 7 and the C major 7. And over that D flat 7 sharp 11, I'm playing the D flat Lydian dominant scale. So take a listen. That's how you can solo over a tritone substitution, and that's everything I've got for you today. So, just to recap, if you want to play a tritone substitution, take whatever dominant 7th chord you're playing and play another dominant 7th chord instead that's a tritone above or below that particular dominant 7th chord. Now, you can jazz up your tritone substitution by playing a dominant 7 sharp 11 chord. And also to solo over your tritone substitutions, you can play the Lydian dominant scale. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, I'd really appreciate it if you clicked like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and let me know what you thought in the comments. Did you enjoy the video? Do you have any other video suggestions? Let me know down below. If you're looking to improve your chord progressions, take them to the next level, make them sound really sophisticated, then I'd highly suggest checking out my book Chord Charisma. Now, I'm offering the first 2 chapters of the book Chord Charisma for free. All you've got to do is head down to the link in the description, and in exchange for your email address, I'll give you the first 2 chapters for free. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, definitely check it out. Those first 2 chapters are going to show you how to write a basic chord progression and then build it up into something more sophisticated with the use of extensions like 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths. So if you're looking to improve your chord progressions, check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.